Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield on this Tuesday, July 4th. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Hope you had a great long weekend. If your employer made you work on Monday, they're just bad people. So I hope you had the 4-day weekend. Josh, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Charlie. Hey, question: aren't you covering an ultimate tournament right now? And didn't you make all of your people work yesterday?
The 4th of July rules do not apply when you're in England.
No, that's right. Once you cross the seas, you don't have that problem.
But I have been trolling the British people here because, we won. Okay, we won.
Yeah.
Number 2, original Brexit. Okay, peace. Number 3, stuff is just weird here, man. I don't dislike it really, but like the rules here, there's like the rule following culture is insane. It's like totally insane. Everybody has like all of these things that have to be a certain way, and it doesn't matter if it's logical or not. You just have to do things a certain way, where everybody gets very upset. I don't know. It's a it's a strange place.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad you're having a good time over in Europe. It sounds like a fun trip, that's for sure.
I had some new food. I'm going to throw it at you. You ready for this?
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, I had mushy peas for the first time. You had that?
Nope, haven't.
You want to guess at what it is?
Is it peas that are mashed up?
It is. That's exactly what it is. It kind of tastes like split pea soup, but like in more of a, on a plate, not as a soup. I had, what else did I have? I mean, I've had many things like this, but I haven't specifically had steak and ale pie. So I had that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what you would imagine it is.
Yeah.
And then I had, I don't even remember what this is called, something scampi. But basically it was like fish nuggets. It kind of tasted like fried shrimp. But I went to the pub, so, I mean,
Sure.
It's not remarkable food. There's a reason you've never heard of any of it. There's a reason you've never had any of it.
You got to make your way over to France. Then you can get some real good food.
Oh my God. I can't wait. I've not been to France someday. Instead, I'm in this hostage room here at the dorms at the University of Nottingham. Holding my microphone like a lunatic. I brought my legitimate podcast mic from home. So because I'm going to be here for 3 weeks. I'm in the UK for a week and a half approximately, and then I'll be in Finland for 2 weeks.
And just holding the mic for 3 more weeks.
Jeez, tough scene. We are just going to do one show this week. Apologies, folks, but the combination of the holiday, the time difference, the fact that I'm working like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, just not enough time to get to 2 shows, and hope you understand because I will be all disc golf for the next 2 weeks as we get into the European swing. Still had a chance to watch some of the Preserve this weekend. Josh, thanks for holding down the rapid reacts for the subscribers without me.
No problem.
And so we got some classic winners again. I mean, wow, Josh, you called it. Ricky gets the W.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you called this one, but like, I feel like we're seeing the trend this year that somebody plays really bad and then they come out the next week and they win the tournament. It's very strange.
It is odd, but I also think that it kind of removes a little bit of that pressure in a sense, right? You go out, you play really poorly, at which point it's like, well, can't do worse than that. Just gonna go play some golf, I guess, right? Like it at least in my mind, I think it'd be harder pressure wise to do what like Simon and Eagle do and have done in past years, where they win back-to-back events sometimes. Like I think that creates that mounting and rolling pressure. Whereas if you have a pretty poor performance, you're out of the media. They just quickly say, for example, Gannon Burr 2 weeks ago didn't cash. And then that's all you talk about it. And it allows them to kind of reset, come back in, fresh start, no expectations, no pressure. And I think there's got to be some value to that. The other part about it is like, people, the players that we talk about on a regular basis and put in our picks on a regular basis are the best in the world. And so if they're having an off weekend, it's not often that these players have multiple off weekends. If they do, then it's like
they're not the best in the world anymore.
They're not the best in the world. Right. Like we're like, oh yeah, remember that guy? And so it's really been the case of like those players have an off weekend, but they're going to bounce back. So.
And it's certainly been bounce back season. And it was a bounce back weekend too for Katrina Allen, who beats out Kristen Tatar in a final round that was at times contested. And Katrina just she played the best disc golf she's played in months, to be honest. Mm-hmm. She said in an interview that she's actually been putting pretty well because she had a good putting weekend, but that no one has noticed because she hasn't been on coverage because she's been throwing the disc so poorly off the tee. And so right back in the thick of things. And it's a nice time. I mean, what a time for like two world champs to catch a win, catch a little bit of momentum, and get ready for this, a little bit of a break and then head into this next swing of the season where, we're in Europe, and then we have this big stretch of playoff events and on into the September and October majors.
I'm excited for the European swing. I think it's going to be really exciting. And I'm glad Katrina is peaking right now. And maybe not peaking is the right word, but coming back into form, like you said, at this time, because as we've talked about the European Open field being so limited, there's not going to be a ton of other players who are going to, that contention by committee is really difficult when your committee is only 15% of what it usually is. So I hope that Paige had a decent weekend. Kristen obviously played really well still, and Katrina's now coming into form. Hopefully, man, a three-way battle with those three, and then stick in Henna or Evelina, and you've got yourself quite the weekend of the European Open coming up.
Katrina's back into the number 2 spot in the UDisc standings with the win this weekend. She's still almost 250 points. I think actually more than 250 points behind Kristen. But look, she looked super sharp this weekend. And I think you could ascribe it to all kinds of different things. She played with a renewed sense of focus, it felt like. And we're going to have to talk about it. I don't want to get to it yet, but we are going to talk about the Natalie Ryan situation and the press conference that Katrina and others organized to sort of speak out against Natalie Ryan competing. And so we'll come back to that. I want to just point out that that's a thing that happened and that seemed to lift a weight off of Katrina's shoulders in some ways. Looking over at MPO, Josh, Ricky shoots a 37 under through 3 rounds. This is the easiest course on tour right now, I think, from just a straight up scoring perspective. Did you enjoy watching the just total shred fest that we got to see?
I don't mind having shred fest on tournaments. Like it is fun to see, and I wish we had gotten to see more of like Kohler Dolan's round, for example,
sure.
15 under.
Crazy,
right?
Crazy.
There's nothing wrong necessarily with seeing a course and seeing pros just play incredibly well. But I talked a touch about this on the Rapid Reacts, and my biggest issue with this tournament is that one really, really, and this is probably why some of the pros like it so much. A really hot round can't, paired with 2 like decent or good rounds even, isn't enough to stay in contention. You have to shoot, like, it really is, if your foot is not on the gas at all times, you are probably not getting enough birdies. That's fine. Like, it's fine, but I think the score compression at the top of the field and how many birdies you have to stay relevant means that it's like the only way to really differentiate yourself, right? If Cole wanted to get back in contention, and remember, so I talked a little bit more about this, but Cole shot a 9 down in round 1 and an 8 down in round 2. Now that's definitely off the pace, but it's also not like by most course standards, it's not terrible.
Those are
right?
Typically that's 2 pretty good rounds. You could be near the top with those rounds at a lot of courses.
On this one, in 8, if he had gone 19 down, birdied every hole and eagled hole 18, 19 down, and he still would not have been within Ricky's win. Like that. That's the what if of like. I mean, he shot a 1070 rated round in that final round, just a really strong performance, 1079, 1031 and 1040 in rounds 1 and 2. Rounds 2 and 1 respectively. I mean, that's not bad. That's a little off the mark, but you would think that a 1079 and a 1031 paired together would be enough to kind of keep up, and it isn't at this course, and so. It's fine. I'm fine with it on tour. The scoring is actually not my biggest problem with this course in this tournament. So, definitely not my biggest gripe by any means. And so, but it's not my favorite either.
Well, you have to tell us what your gripe is if you're going to just frame it up like that.
I've said it a lot, and I'll say it again. I think this is one of the ugliest courses on tour.
It's really ugly.
It's so ugly. it's oh my gosh.
I want it to be pretty, and it's just not. It's yellow and just looks run down. I got to be honest.
It does. And you could grab any random person who doesn't follow disc golf and ask them what this looks like, and they'll be like, looks like an abandoned golf course. It's like, you're right. That's that.
You're basically spot on.
That's my biggest gripe with this tournament. It's just so ugly.
Well, we got to give some credit to Rick, who just really played awesome. I mean, aside from kind of a slow start to round 3, hard to ask for much more. I mean, was just, pinning it all over the place. Awesome teeted green, putted fantastic, 93% inside the circle, 36% circle 2. I mean, this is what we've been waiting to see from Ricky basically the entire season. And, he misses months of time with the injury. And then he's not bad, but he's not special. And I don't know, maybe this, like a course with a little bit less teeth was just what the doctor ordered.
And we knew that injury was, unless it was going to re-flare, that was something that it really just felt like Ricky needed to shake off the rust. It wasn't lingering injury issues, in my opinion, that's been holding him back. It was just the case of Ricky didn't play golf for nearly as long as his competitors were. And he was in the off season going into this season, just not playing enough, obviously. And the field is just so good right now and so deep, I guess, that being a little bit off drops you. And I'd be interested to go back and look, but at least in terms of overall rating, Ricky's rating is still, he's one of the few guys in the 1040s. So, it's clear that his rating is still pretty high, and he's just been playing just enough off to kind of hold him back. I felt like it was a matter of time, and a tournament that, like you said, less teeth that he's won in the past felt like a prime place for Ricky to get it done.
Calvin Heimberg and Cole Redallen tie for second. You already mentioned the fantastic 15 under final round from Redallen, takes par on just 4 holes, gets the eagle on the kind of silly par 5 18th. Still a really good hole, and we'll come back to that in our whole 18 reviews. But I mean, Cole Redallen we've been talking about him a bunch this year. We'll go weeks without talking about him because he has terrible rounds, and then he'll have an amazing round like this one that vaults him back into a podium spot. I'm so interested to see what happens with Cole's career, because he is absolutely up there in the talent department with the guys that we talk about more regularly, with your Gannons, with your Isaacs, with all of these young phenom type players. Cole Redallen is one of those guys. Like, he has played against those guys. And I'm waiting for the breakthrough. Shooting 15 under to finish 5 shots off the win it's a good result, no question, but you need to not be shooting from the chase card. You need to be like in the contention and get the win. But I mean, it just feels like it's a matter of time for this kid.
Yeah. When you say chase card, I hope you meant
whatever it was, right?
Yeah,
it was
right.
way down.
That's the point, right? Yeah. I do that to highlight the fact that Cole talked about this when we interviewed him. He knows he's got the ceiling necessary.
Oh, definitely.
To win elite events and to be one of the best players in the world. And he proves that week in and week out by shooting the hot round. I wish I went to look at Statmando, and it looks like they just have the hot rounds from 2022. But I'd be curious to know, I mean, how many hot rounds has he shot in 2023? And where does that compare to the field? Because I feel like we talk about this so often. It's like, oh, yep, there's Cole Redall. He made his way back up into the top 10 thanks to the hot round in round 3. But again, he's got to do it from, heck, even the chase card would be better, right? If he's on the chase card, that means a hot round like this would probably get him up in contention for the win. But he's just too far off the mark by the time he gets to this point.
All right, I want to do a quick exercise, okay?
Okay.
And I just thought of this right now. I didn't really pre-plan this, but I want to just do stock up, stock down on players heading towards Europe as we think about the European Open, the next major coming up here. Stock up, stock down in this stretch from DDO to Preserve. So we had back-to-back-to-back weekends. And
Okay.
I leave this as a global exercise. Do you think they're trending up right now or they're trending down? You can take neutral if you want to. And let's start with the other player who was in second place, Calvin Heimberg.
Okay.
Give me your thoughts. Stock up, stock down. Second, third, second at the last 3 events.
I stock down. I think he's gone too long. He's gone too long without a win, right? And the fact, it's not to say that like Calvin has to keep winning, but for the way his stock was buoyed by wins at pretty regular intervals throughout the tour, and he's kind of due for a win in order to keep his stock price where it was at. Which is, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think that second, third, second is still incredible, but it's what he's done all season. He's just also paired it with wins.
I think he was flat. I mean, he was flat. Let's be honest. It was a flat second place finish for him because it felt like he could have won. And he couldn't hit, the putter was way cold.
Oh,
brutal. And, just didn't make the birdies when he needed to. And I don't know if he was catching Ricky anyway, but it's weird because I almost feel like because of the way the Preserve went down, it just feels like I feel less inclined to pick him at European Open now. Gannon Burr, I'm going to
major too.
I'm going to say stock up because you can't argue with somebody getting a win in that stretch.
Yep.
He's not going to Europe, by the way, so it doesn't really matter what his stock is doing right now.
How do you feel? Man, I look at the standings and it's just so weird.
So don't even look at the standings. I'll just give you another player who also finished up at the top at the Preserve, and that's Eagle, who finished 4th.
I gotta say stock up. And I think it's paired with a strong, like, injury time away, strong comeback at the Preserve, a really nice final round, and then we're going to Europe. Like, this, if you wanted Eagle stock, now, right before Europe is never the time to buy Eagle stock.
You mean to sell it?
No, to buy it, because I think it's just going up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like it's already inflated.
Right? Unless you're 100% certain that Eagle's going to win in Europe, I think that you always will pay a premium on Eagle stock right before Europe.
This is the time to get well. But see, the thing is, if you got in while he was hurt and didn't play 2 events in a row, then maybe you'd be in a good spot. But I have to agree. I mean, obviously, you got to feel good about the fact that he was able to come back out and can play at a high level.
Yeah.
And that, like, it doesn't seem like it's going to be like a 6-month type of thing. Who should I answer for? Obviously, Ricky stock up.
Yeah.
That's we don't even need to go through that.
Anthony Barella.
Gosh, what's he do here?
Finished 10th.
He's gone 39th, 7th, 10th. I don't know. I mean, I guess stock. The stock is flat for me.
Okay.
I continue to harp on this. He's 4th in the standings. Like he's having a great season. I don't see him winning European Open. So I just feel like I'm kind of neutral.
Sure.
How do you feel about What are some other notables from this weekend? Well, let's go across the pond. How do you feel about Paul Macbeth? He just won the Swedish Open.
Yeah,
he beat Nicholas.
Stock up.
He beat Nicholas.
He beat Nicholas, and it was in a nail biter too. That's the part that I think is important to me. Is he's able to beat Nicholas with that hole 18 right there. I mean they're tied going in. No, Nicholas is ahead. Nicholas is at 25, and Paul. Yeah, so they're tied. They're tied going into the final hole, and Paul Macbeth's able to get the birdie to beat out Nicholas. You got to be thinking stock up, especially because when it hit the 31, when he placed 31st on his first trip out, the first tournament out there, it not much place else to go than up. So yeah, I give Paul the stock up.
Paul hit 58% of his Circle 2 putts this weekend. Look out, folks.
Final round, 50%, and didn't miss a Circle 1 putt.
Look out, folks. Good putting, Paul, is a very scary guy. Very scary guy. Okay, Kristen. We're on this.
Dang it! No, I wanted to ask you.
I'll answer. I still stay stock up. I mean,
I think so too.
I don't know. I don't make much of her not winning Preserve. I mean, she's not going to win every single tournament. Players are too good.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many strong players in the field, and she's not perfect. But she continues to just play at an overall level that is higher than everyone else.
Page stock.
For me, it's been on a long downward trajectory that has not abated. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I know she has more in the tank. That's the biggest thing. I know she can play at a higher level than she's playing right now. We have all seen it. It's not like she's doing the same thing and other people are passing her. She's simply not playing as well as she once has. What do you say about Holland Handley, third this weekend?
How'd she do in this full stretch? Let me pull.
I'll tell you. She was 17th at DMC. She was second at DDO.
I'm feeling stock up, and I mean I think the third place was a nice finish because she jumped up 2 more spots, but if I thought Ella had a pretty poor final round. Because I thought Ella really had that third place pretty well locked up and was going to get it. And then goes, bogey, 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 16, 17, 18. And Holland's able to sneak up and snag the podium. And it's nice from Holland. The problem, I'll be honest, is when I look at this course and I look at the top 10 finishers from this event, Katrina, Kristen, Holland, Missy, Kat Murch, Ella Hansen, Paige Pierce, Haley King, Valerie Mondahano, and Jennifer Allen. Missy is the only one I don't say, wow, that's a power thrower. All the way down the rest of the leaderboard, though, from top 1 to 10, I'm like, that's a FPO player who can really hammer that disc. And Holland is still 7 strokes off the lead. I was so excited about Ella and Holland going into the season. And, in the standings, they're still playing really well. They're 4th and 5th.
They're great players. They just don't play golf as well as Kristen and Katrina and, frankly, most of the time, Paige.
Or Missy.
Oh, certainly Missy or Owen.
Right? Missy,
those are
Owen,
golfers.
You got to stick them. And then, even Haley King, I feel like you'd wrap Haley King more in that mix with Holland and Ella a little bit. Haley can really go through mental spirals where she just kind of loses control of her game. But she also wins.
Yeah.
And she's got to win at DDO in that stretch and didn't play DMC, and she's still 8th in the standings relative to Ella and Holland's 4th and 5th. So, I really enjoy watching Holland and Ella, and I think that they have some of the skill sets that could make them just absolutely top tier players. But going into Europe, I still think I might put my money on Henna or Evelina before I put it on Holland or Ella.
It's hard to argue with that. I mean, they know the courses. They're used to the style. They've played well there before. And I don't know. The putting is such a wild card. Really, with all of those players.
You don't need to putt. You don't need to putt at the European Open. You just got to throw.
Just got to throw really far. That is true. Okay, well, I do want to talk a little bit about this Natalie Ryan situation overall. Josh, we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week when the ruling came out from the district court. It was not appealed by the Pro Tour or the PDGA. Who knows what will be the case of the long-term run there. Natalie Ryan did not play particularly well this weekend. Where'd she end up finishing? 20th, I think? Something like that?
Something down there.
14th. She was over par. And I don't, it was a lot of drama coming into the weekend, and it didn't feel like it was much of anything coming out of the weekend. And obviously a lot of that's going to come down to how did Natalie play? Was Natalie on the lead card or in a chance to win? Obviously the answer was no. So it felt less pressing by the end of the weekend. But coming into the weekend, Natalie wins this court case, says, okay, I'm playing. And a large group of FPO players and with MPO supporters held kind of an impromptu Instagram press conference that was broadcast on Brody Smith's Instagram as well as a couple other places, where they gave statements about why they thought it was wrong for Natalie Ryan to be able to compete in the FPO division. And it was spearheaded by Katrina Allen and Sarah Hokum, who have been doing a lot of the organizing around this topic with players from, behind the scenes over the last few months, maybe even years at this point. This was not, I don't think any of the players who were in this press conference really came as a surprise. Many of these players had signed the document that sort of gave a statement about why they disagreed with Natalie having the opportunity to play earlier in the year. And so it was sort of known what their position on the issue was. But Josh, I'm really curious. You had a chance to check it out. And, what did you think of the press conference overall? And what do you think it means for where this issue is right now in disc golf?
The press conference highlighted a lot of the same things that we see on social media. And I don't think, let me clarify a few things. Number one, because of the list, like you said, and who was involved wasn't a huge surprise. The things that were said and the details involved in it were, I felt pretty par for the course. And I don't feel like we learned anything new about sentiments or the way that they described this position. Here's what was interesting to me and what really stood out to me. You can hear Katrina at the beginning of the press conference video say something akin to, we need to make sure to tag Icons or make sure Icons gets notified about this. Icons on Twitter is the Independent Council on Women's Sports, which is an organization dedicated to, this idea, right, of trying to ensure that trans athletes are not competing in female protected divisions. And if you go to Icon's Twitter right now, disc golf and the preserve they have a pinned post and then it's disc golf. And it has the video with the press conference followed by a Washington Times article, and then followed by, just congratulating Katrina on her win for the division. And what this press conference feels like to me is like we have talked about on the legal side, we have seen disc golf used, and there's a chance that disc golf will be used as legitimate precedent in future rulings and is playing an important role as like a front runner sport in what happens in the legal battles around transgender athletes. I think we are also beginning to see, though, on the flip side, the social and cultural ramifications of this being elevated to a higher level as well. Leah Thomas was the first one, right, that made national headlines. And I think that it feels that this press conference was an effort to continue to propel disc golf into the same status in terms of cultural relevance and in people's like mind of like conscience around women's sports and the trans athlete debate. And that's what this feels like to me, right? The reference to icons including it on here, it feels like disc golf is becoming, both on the legal side and now on the cultural side, amplified as one of the central battlegrounds around trans athletes in women's sports.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm quite ready to call it central. But I agree with you that it's becoming more known, particularly in conservative outlets, where this is a strong wedge issue. Because let's remember, let's go back to the PDGA's decision in the first place. The PDGA did a survey of its members, and they asked, do you think that trans women should be allowed to compete in the FPO? And they got a resounding answer. And the answer was no. And when you survey people in the United States about this topic, the majority of people do not think that trans women should compete in women's divisions. Now that's still partisan, but it's like, some monster percentage of conservatives, something like 70% of independents, and something around just north of 50% of Democrats. Okay, so or liberals, to use my framing here. And I don't have the I don't have the study in front of me right now, but this is an issue where clearly on the cultural side, people don't think it's fair. And I think what you were seeing from this press conference, and I saw a lot of people online talking about it, in various ways. Some people felt like they were being very hateful to do this, that this was wrong. But at the end of the day, I think you have to recognize that it is a very clearly expressed opinion from, I don't want to necessarily say millions of people, because a lot of people probably don't even have an opinion on this topic. But a lot of people feel it isn't fair and that it shouldn't happen. And that is what those players were expressing. And I think for the most part, having watched the whole press conference myself, that was expressed in a non-hateful way by them on this, Brody Smith Instagram thing. I mean, you make it sound like they had some kind of like fancy, we're going to do a press conference with a bunch of media people there and reporters. It was not that.
Right. No, it wasn't.
It was like them speaking, but there was clearly like deep emotions for these players. Some of them were on the verge of tears. And I'm happy to go through the list of people who talked in this meeting. I'm not trying to bury this or something. Katrina Allen spoke. Sarah Hokum spoke. Jennifer Allen spoke briefly. Rebecca Cox, Jessica Weiss, Kona Montgomery, and I think that was the list. There was one other woman there who was not a professional disc golfer whose name I missed and I couldn't quite get. But those were the pro players that people would know. And I think what you'll see is that that's a cross section of players with political beliefs all over the place. Okay, I can tell you, Katrina Allen and Sarah Hokum do not agree on all things political. And I think the point that I want to make about the whole thing is that, like, while yes, I think that people who want to look at some of the stuff that Katrina has said and done and find it, hurtful or hateful, I understand that. But I think if you watch this press conference, it's not like they're out there to just try to like tear Natalie down. I genuinely think they think it isn't fair, and they're trying to express that. And that may not always be artfully expressed, but this is a position that people feel, and I think you cannot hide from that. You make a great point, Josh, right? So there's like this legal battle going on, and right now Natalie Ryan is winning these legal battles for the most part. Now, we don't know. These are all temporary, sort of just like for the weekend type results. So what that means for the long term is not clear. But I do think what you will see is that socially in disc golf, clearly Natalie Ryan is losing massively, not just from these players, but from what we've seen from the PDGA results. And what is that going to mean long term? Who is going to win out, right? generally, I think the courts follow the flows of public opinion more than you might think.
And when I think of possible, like you talked about with that following the flows of public opinion, I think it is the case of when I imagine an outcome that feels the most likely and feels the most likely for that side, right? For the side that believes this is unfair, I assume it's probably going to be a ruling that says something similar to the IOC stance of it depends on the sport and it's up to you to adjudicate that, right? That I could see that as being if this case or a similar case made its way up higher courts and had to be adjudicated on a national level, I would not be surprised at all for the answer to be this is a varying degree, like position about the influence that this can have, and thus it would be, imprudent to rule on something universal in that nature, and thus we're going to allow sports to adjudicate it themselves. And that is, I think, the message that these players are trying to communicate is that in disc golf, they feel like that should be the stance because they don't feel that it is fair. And I feel like this is just the other side of the coin on the battle around this subject. Yeah,
it's a fraught topic. We'll take your emails on at upshot@ultiworld.com. All right, let's get to the Pursewatch here. Josh, get us with the Pursewatch from the Preserve.
Pursewatch for the Preserve. MPO $54,553, FPO payout $26,154 for a total of $80,707. This is pretty in line with a lot of 3-day events. Dynamic Discs and Des Moines had kind of started pushing it up, and this is the time of year where it starts to get bumped up. Really, Des Moines blows it out of the water on the 3-day side, but very much in line with Jonesboro, Music City Open at Austin, Waco, right? Very, very similar and comparable in numbers. Same thing on the payout side with the MPO payout of $8,000, the FPO payout of $5,000. In fact, it's a pretty good FPO payout for a 3-day event relative to the other ones earlier in the season. Here's the interesting part, though, Charlie. This is what really stands out to me. The Preserve is the first event this year, first Elite Series event, that decreased in purse from 2022 to 2023. And is the first event since we have started Pursewatch last year that decreased in money without changing classifications, right? There are some Elite Series events that drop down to silvers, and then those typically go down in purses, or National Tour to silver events, something like that. That's decreased the purse. But for an event that has stayed at the same classification in previous years, the Preserve is the first event we have seen where the purse went down.
That is very interesting. I'm not totally sure what to make of it. It went down 3%. I think it's basically public knowledge that there's been some financial challenges at the Preserve for Cale LaVisca. I don't really know what the status of that is, but I wonder if that's playing a role here. It seems like a really cool property, but the course is starting to feel like it needs a little more to kind of like be a tour stop ongoing. And I don't know, like 3%, it's basically the same, right? If it was up 1%, down 3%, we're talking about a couple $1,000s. It's not enough to be meaningful. But on the other hand, it's like, why wasn't it just that 1% up? Why didn't you just add the extra $5,000 or whatever to get to that point? I don't know. I think it's not a distinction that you want to have, but it's not like this was way out of line with the standards that we've seen set this year.
And that's true. Jonesboro right now, no, excuse me, not Jonesboro, Open at Austin, has the lowest of any Elite Series at 76,000. So Preserve still clears that by 4,000. So, the question is, how much credit do you give? Open at Austin was a silver event last year, but maybe Jonesboro. Jonesboro was 78,000, so still 2,000 below. They jumped 9% from 72, whereas Preserve goes down a little bit. Do you punish Jonesboro for not being up to the 80,000 mark?
Right.
Or do you punish the Preserve for not increasing it? Right. That's, I think what's what's odd to me is like Clearwater does not look like it's that big in terms of a town, but it's only 50 minutes away from Minneapolis. It's not far from a metropolitan. Like, I think anything within an hour of a metropolitan space that's pretty decent. And it's only an hour away. I guess I would expect, especially given how much the pros love this course and the potential for spectator opportunities. It's not a densely wooded property. It's a former golf course. Spectatorship should be fairly
unlimited.
accessible.
Yeah.
Right. It just kind of surprises me that the preserve is not. I've always felt that my gripes with the aesthetics are just kind of, they've always felt a little bit petty, but I wonder if there's a little bit more to that, right? I wonder if it actually is both between the aesthetics and just the course and its level relative to the pro game are hurting it a bit on the competitive side enough that does that make it harder to fundraise?
I don't know. It's an interesting conundrum, and I got to be honest, I don't totally understand the details behind tournament economics. They have all this added cash. Well, what's the mix of that money? Where is it coming from? Some of it's coming from ticket sales. Some of it's coming from sponsorships. How much money from sponsorships? Obviously Des Moines has like Sugar Daddy Bank. Like they're like getting huge amounts of money from a sponsor, and that's not. I basically want to say it's not available to everybody. Like, I think they're lucky to have that. I think it's possible for other disc golf tournaments to create that connection and that relationship and grow alongside of a sponsor, and that's got to be the goal for everybody, because an extra $20,000 to a large state company, right? Not like a big multinational or something, but even like a large state company, $25,000. I mean, somebody will pay $25,000 to go to a dinner gala. Like, that's not that much money, but if you put that into a disc golf tournament purse, all of a sudden you're one of the highest purses on tour. So it's not like it's way out of line or out of that it's impossible to get a sponsor of that size. But I still think we're just at that point where it's hard. It's harder than it looks.
That's what I was going to add. Fundraising is not an easy task. And you're right. Like, the city of Pocatello just received a grooming truck for our cross-country ski course, and the credit union paid $120,000 and just gave it to the city in exchange for having their, it decaled and wrapped in the credit union logo and colors and stuff. And that was it. It's done. And $120,000, just another credit union just paid over $1 million to build a new park in downtown, in Pocatello, Idaho, right? Like, we're not talking
right,
like, these massive corporations like you're mentioning, but it also is a very difficult, like, fundraising is not easy. And anybody who has done fundraising for major events like this knows the difficulty and the battle that is involved in it. So,
all right. Hole 18 review. I was pretty hyped on this one coming in.
You were? Does it deliver, Charlie?
It delivers for me. It does. It delivers. I'm giving it my highest score of the year. I'm giving MPO a 9. Now, look, the knock for sure is that it shouldn't be a par 5. It should be a par 4. There's no question. Mm-hmm. It definitely should be a par 4. But does that really matter that much? Like, there's something nice when, like, players are coming down the stretch and you're like, they could eagle 18 and get 2 more under par. Now, look, it's all the same for everybody, so it doesn't really matter, right? I do think the hole would probably improve a little bit if they cut it down to a par 4, but the scoring separation is awesome. I love the water carries. I like the whole design of the hole. I think it's exciting. I think that there's ways that you can have a 2 or even a 3-shot swing on the hole. And so I'm never going to argue about any of that. And is it a 9? I don't know. I kind of want to give it an 8.5, but I'm not allowing myself to do half points. I'm giving it a 9. I want it to have the highest score of the year so far.
I sat down and looked at it and had to try to make the decision. And I kind of referenced it. I've given 2 8s in our previous stretch. We've had a really good stretch of whole 8s or whole 18s over the past few events. And I was looking, my last 2 8s were DDO in Portland, and I had to ask myself if I prefer those over this one. And my answer is actually yes, it is. I do prefer DDO in Portland over the Preserve. So I give the Preserve a 7. I have a couple of, I agree with you on a lot of your points, but I have a couple of gripes that I don't enjoy about it. Number one is if you go for, I like holes where if you go for eagle, birdie and mess up, then birdie becomes difficult.
Well, that's this whole course. I mean, you just don't ever get punished for anything.
You don't, and that's my biggest gripe. I don't care that it's a par 5. I'm fine with that, but I want maybe on the left side of the first landing zone, like put some OB or put a bunker in play or something, so that if you are going to push for the eagle and you mess up, it's not just a gimme birdie, right?
Sure.
And that's the case, and that's why my biggest problem with it is that it, they talk about on the broadcast, oh, so and so needs to get an eagle here in order to kind of stay competitive, stay relevant. And it's like, well, yeah, of course they're going to go for eagle. Why wouldn't you on this hole? No, there's no reason not to. So I don't feel like it's a decision-making process. Some players are going to get the eagle because they threw it well. Some players are going to get the birdie because they threw it well. But there's no decision to this hole. And that's kind of my gripe, at least for top players. And that's my biggest complaint. So that drops it down to a 7 for me. Over on the FPO side, it's too dang hard, man. And it's, the problem is, I actually think the problem is the opposite. It does what I asked for on the MPO side, but it punishes them too much. So Holland Hanley, Missy Gannon, Paige Pierce, Paige Shue, only birdies in round 3. Wind was down. I mean, fine scoring conditions for it. And Holland was the only one to make it to circle 1 in regulation, who got the birdie. Rebecca Cox also did. So those are the only 2 players that make it. I feel like it is a little bit too punishing for a mistake over here. And it also takes away a little bit of that decision making where I wish that you could choose to go for birdie or eagle and really push it. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine to me, but it's just too hard. It's, too many. Where were the percentages here? 50% and above were bogey or worse, including 27% shooting a double or triple bogey. And not a lot of those are touring players. So that's kind of the hard part. It's fine. It's fine. I give it a 6.
Great scoring separation on this hole. It does play hard. I think you could tweak the hole a little bit, and if you brought eagle into play, it would be a more interesting hole. Mm-hmm. But it's still solid. It's still solid. I still like the overall design of the hole with the multiple water carries and the landing zones and stuff. I'm going to give it a 7 on the FPO side. Okay. Still enjoyable. And the thing is, the scoring separation is good enough for me that even though birdie is tough, it plays how the MPO might play if the MPO was a par 4. Right?
That's like exactly right. Yeah.
So I'm okay with it as it is, although I do think some tweaks would help the hole. And I'm with you on the adding a little bit of OB or danger. I think it would be really helpful to tune up the hole just a little bit. That's true a lot of holes at the Preserve, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, Andrew Presnell was out there saying, we need some freaking OB on this course, and he's got a point. He's definitely got a point. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk a little Kansas City Wide Open. Will there be more spectators there than at DDO? We'll be right back.
At Pound, the quality of our gear runs deeper than the stitching. That's why we make everything right here in the U.S., employing highly skilled, well-paid professionals. From bomb-proof Cordura fabric to YKK zippers and recycled plastics, we source the highest quality U.S. materials to make the most comfortable, durable pack in disc golf. Our lifetime warranty stays with the pack, not the purchaser. So regardless of how you find us, we will be here to make sure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Pound's integrity is held together with more than just thread.
Welcome back to the Upshot. Josh, before we talk a little Kansas City wide open, we got to discuss the European Open because we've got some more news on that front as we approach the second major of the year. They announced the media coverage. Did you see this? All the DGN stuff?
I did not see this.
Okay, well,
no, I didn't.
I'll tell you what they got going on here.
Okay, yeah.
This year, all DGN subscribers will be able to get all of the European Open content without any additional PPV. So that's a nice.
Great news.
That's great news, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody can agree
Great
that's great news. If you do not want to subscribe, you can also pay $24.99 for an pay-per-view package with all the European Open content. I don't know why anybody would do that, but I guess people must do it.
Why?
I mean,
they literally said on the broadcast last week that they're running a 50% off special if you buy it this weekend through the month of July. So I could subscribe for what, $6 for the month and then just cancel.
Now here's the thing, Josh. The reason that they do this, why do you think they do it?
So they can advertise that
well,
and get people to sign up as subscribers.
Yeah. And also some people just don't cancel.
Right.
Some people like it and they keep it. Other people just don't. They forget to cancel. Like there's all kinds of things. But like,
so the incentive then is to
do you want people to
get
subscribe?
them to just go be subscriber instead of the media plan.
And if you really don't want to subscribe, you can pay a huge premium to do so. There will be there will be, of course, live coverage of all of the rounds. There will also be 3 featured holes in a second stream. Okay. There will be no live coverage on YouTube besides the pregame Tournament Central broadcasts. So no round 1 on YouTube.
Look, I paid for DGN, but I still want that free round on YouTube so I can use that server instead of the stinking DGN platform.
There will also, of course, be live coverage of the President's Cup on Wednesday before the tournament. Let's see. What do we need to know? FPO broadcast starts at 8:30 a.m. In Finland and 3:30 p.m. for MPO. So, full day of disc golf, and that's 1:30 a.m. Eastern time, and then the MPO starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So, Josh, for you, just to be clear, that's 11:30 p.m. FPO, 6:30 a.m. MPO. What's your game plan?
I might not be watching this one live. Like I maybe final round.
I mean, you can wake up and catch this back half of the MPO coverage.
Well, and heck, I mean, 6:30 for me is not even that bad on the MPO side. I could catch MPO pretty reasonably and just keep my normal schedule instead of my weekend. Instead of sleeping in a little bit on the weekends. But man, sorry FPO, like that's a rough one.
Yeah, it's tough. We can all be honest, that's tough. But the Europeans, for once, get a tournament in their time zone.
Right.
DGN is also going to be doing post-production of a lead and chase cards for both divisions. And that has originally been released on DGN before coming out on the YouTube channel. But this year it's going to be on Jomez as well as MDG Media, who's helping out with the coverage of the PDGA Euro Tour. So that's the plan. It will be exclusively available on DGN during the tournament, but will be released on the Jomez Pro and MDG Media YouTube channels after the event. So free release on YouTube will be quicker this year, with coverage starting to become available on August 8th, it says. So 16 days after the final round instead of 30 days as it was last year. Okay. I mean, it still sucks if you're hoping to just watch for free.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a monster amount of coverage.
I'm excited. I love watching this event. It's a great one to watch, and I will be waking up at least for the MPO round. We'll see about the FPO final round. Maybe. Maybe I'll go to bed at like 4 p.m. and then
get up, rally,
stay up on Sunday and watch it. Yeah.
In the President's Cup USA versus Europe battle, the captains and fans have made their selections. The fans picked Calvin Heimberg to Team USA and Jakub Semerad to Team Europe. And then Team USA captain Nate Sexton picked Isaac Robinson. And KJ Nybo as Team Europe captain picked Oyvind Jarnes. So your full teams, you ready?
That does not feel like a fair pick on you.
It's not fair. Team USA, here it is. Nate Sexton, Katrina Allen, Missy Gannon, Chris Dickerson, Paul Macbeth, Eagle McMahon, Ricky Wysocki, Calvin Heimberg, and Isaac Robinson, with Paige Pearson, Matty O in reserves. Gannon Burr is not going to be in Europe, so he will not be competing. Team Europe is going to be KJ Nybo, Henna Blomroos, Krishna Tatar, Nicholas Antila, Linus Carlson, Vino Makala, Lauri Lettinen, Jakub Semerad, and Oyvind Jarnes, with Evelina Salonen and Yuna Heinonen in reserves. So there you go. Who you taking, Josh?
I think I have to take Team USA, but man, am I going to be rooting for Team Europe so hard.
And they also give out some wild card bids to the European Open. A couple notable players, Cynthia Ricciardi, Anakin Steen, Katie Tate, Luke Humphreys, KJ Nybo, a couple other folks from Europe getting into the tournament. So FPO is a little bigger division this year. MPO a little bit smaller this year at the European Open, and it's all coming up in a couple weeks.
Okay. It's going to be good to watch.
So Kansas City Wide Open, Silver Series. Definitely not looking like one of the more elite Silver Series, if you will, but still a great tournament. This is a long-running tournament, over 40 years of the Kansas City Wide Open. You looking forward to this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited about new courses on tour. That's my biggest thing, right? I love the opportunity. I know nothing about this course. I scanned the caddy book, and you can only get so much from that. It looks like it's kind of a mix. Got some open with actually some pretty tight OB. I was kind of surprised by that, paired with what looks like some wooded golf. The picture on UDisc is gorgeous. And so I really am excited to see this event. And I'm always excited to see new courses on tour that have, and I hope, have the capacity to elevate to the Elite Series designation one day, especially when we are in metropolitan areas, right? Like this is, we talk about this. I'm very excited that we are right there in Kansas City. Technically, I guess it's in Liberty, is what PDGA is saying. But big hopes that this can, this plays out well enough that it could potentially one day be on the Pro Tour.
Very small FPO field this year. It's 30 players, but it's definitely more a regional tournament. Holland Hanley, Kat Murch, Lisa Fakis, Emily Beach, Alexis Mondahano, your top-rated FPO players there. So a lot of the heavy hitters are taking this one off. The MPO side is a little bit more competitive, but still, more of the names lower down the board. But Calvin's going to be there. Gannon, Kyle Klein, Matty O, Cole Redallen, Nico, Prez, Kevin Jones, Chris Clemens. So still lots of touring pros. I guess, Josh, I don't know that I have much to say about the course. It's called Bad Rock Creek. UDisc reviews, very positive. You won't be surprised. It's got a lot of different kinds of elevation, different hole styles. There are going to be some easy holes. There will be some very easy birdies out there, I'm sure, for these top pros. But there's some hard holes too. Should be fun.
I think so too, and I'm glad we get to see this course, and I'm excited to chat about it afterwards once we've gotten the opportunity to see it and get a little bit of coverage and a better idea of what this is all about.
It's a free to play local course. I mean, this is like a course you might play, like the best course in your state, kind of a thing.
Sure.
Who you taking? Let's make our picks.
Okay, FPO side, I'm taking Emily Beach to win it.
Okay. That would be fun.
Yeah. So somebody was chatting in the Discord the other day about Emily Beach getting a win before Holland Hanley and Ella Hansen, and I laughed, and then I was like, you know what? This is, if it was going to happen, this might be the event. I mean, the only people rated ahead of Emily Beach are Holland Hanley, Kat Murch, and Lisa Fakis. And so, and she's only 1 point behind Lisa Fakis. It would not take much. A good weekend from her and a mediocre weekend from Holland and Kat Murch, and Emily Beach is very much in that mix. And so I'm taking Emily Beach to win it this
All right. I'm going to go with Kat Murch. It just feels like the right kind of course for her, like park style, lots of different skills on display. I think she's probably the best player in the field. Maybe you could argue for Holland. And so I'm just keeping it simple when it comes to a silver event. And I think Kat's going to take it down. On the MPO side, I'm going to keep it even simpler. I'm going to take Calvin Heimberg, Josh. I don't need to elaborate. Go ahead.
I'm taking Gannon Burr. He's tied in rating with Calvin Heimberg. I think I'm good. Yeah, I mean, it really just feels like you have these two guys at 1043. You've got Matteo and Kyle Klein at 1040. We know that Matteo doesn't win tournaments, so Kyle Klein may be a possible pick here. And then after that, it jumps down to the 1030 mark. Nico LaCastro, I went and looked at his. I was going to pick Nico. He's terrible at this event. Even before it's been on the Elite Series, he's never won this event and has, got a couple podiums, but not very good here. And so it feels like it's going to be a Calvin or Gannon week. And if it's not, there's no way we were predicting who it was going to be.
Yeah. So everybody get ready for the coverage. It starts this weekend. Of course, it'll be broadcast on DGN. And looking forward to the action. And we'll be back with you next week here on the Upshot. By this time next week, I will be in Finland getting ready for the PCS Open. So, Josh, we're going to have to figure out those time zones. I don't even want to think about that yet.
Oh,
that's going to be wild.
Yeah, it seems like you need to get some sleep first, and then we'll start working on time zones.
Somebody's going to have to get up in the middle of the night. That's all I know. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Upshot. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week right here on the Upshot.